Hello, this is Kevin Annett, Eagle Strong Voice, and I'm speaking to you on behalf of the Republic News Network. It's March 8th, 2024. Well, Canada is well known for its murder of indigenous people within its borders in order to make money for some corporation. And of course, we've got a long history of this. The so-called Indian residential schools, the death camps that killed off over 60,000 children, resulted in no punishment at all for the churches and government responsible. So Canada, and Christian Canada, is an old hand at this kind of thing. But we don't have to look in the past for that. It happened again just this last year in a place called Melfort, Saskatchewan. And these are the people who suffered for it. 10 Cree people killed to get diamonds for a company called Rio Tinto, linked with the British Crown. From left to right at the top, Thomas Burns, Carol Burns, Gregory Burns, Lydia Gloria Burns, and Bonnie Goodvoice Burns. Bottom left to right, Lana Head, Christian Head, Robert Sanderson, Wesley Peterson, and Earl Burns Sr. The dateline, September 2022 to now. The location, the James Smith Cree Reservation near Melfort, Saskatchewan. Well, once upon a time, not too long ago, billions of dollars of diamonds were discovered under the homes of some Cree Indians in central Canada. But for some reason, the Cree didn't want their land torn apart by the Rio Tinto mining company, so their chiefs promptly told Rio Tinto to kiss their collective brown ass. At least they did at first. Then suddenly the Cree chiefs found themselves the recipients of oodles of cash, new cars, and first-class luxury trips to Las Vegas and Hawaii, courtesy of, you guessed it, the Rio Tinto mining company and its shareholders in the British Crown. Naturally, the Cree chiefs saw the light after that, and they all said yes to the destruction of their land. All of them did, except one. One man, he held out. His name was Chief Wally Burns, and he still said no to the bribes and to the mining. Well, the next thing Wally knew, 6 of his local Burns relatives were all murdered in one night, along with 4 other Cree. And then Wally dutifully fell in line with the other chiefs, and he withdrew his opposition to the mining. He was then rewarded with a higher position in the James Smith Band Council. But then some even stranger things started happening there at the James Smith Cree Reservation in eastern Saskatchewan. The 3 top Crown officials, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Governor General Mary Simon, Anglican Archbishop Justin Welby, they quickly showed up at the obscure reservation. After dispensing the standard crocodile tears to the bereaved families of the victims, the 3 of them then doled out even more money to the chiefs, over $43 million. And the next day, lo and behold, some atypically efficient Mounties announced that they had caught the killer of the dead Cree Indians, a lone drifter and cocaine addict in very poor health named Miles Sanderson. Well, before anyone could say payoffs and cover-up, Miles quickly and conveniently died while in RCMP custody, like a latter-day Lee Harvey Oswald. And guess what? So did his alleged accomplice, his brother Damon, who was found dead the next day in a field. C'est l'absurde, n'est-ce pas? But it gets even worse, boys and girls. For guess who arrived next at the James Smith Cree Reservation? The one and only Clive Weighill, the notorious ex-police chief of Saskatoon, who for years concealed the routine murder of Cree Indians by his city cops. But now Clive wore a new hat, that of the Crown Coroner, summoned to investigate the deaths of more murdered Cree. Well, you can guess what happened next. With the banal predictability of yet another stage-managed whitewash in which Canada excels, Clive and his Mountie buddies soon declared that Miles Sanderson was the lone killer. But they didn't bother to explain his motives or how he adeptly entered 7 separate homes in one night and murdered 10 people while in a sickly condition and armed only with a knife. They also claimed that Miles had wounded 18 other Cree people with the same knife. Not bad for a feeble cocaine addict, eh? Well, to back up this absurd, unproven scenario, Clive Weighill quickly convened a hand-picked coroner's jury, illegally stacked with only the right kind of natives, local band councillors and their friends, all of them on the government payroll. Naturally, the jury's pre-arranged verdict rubber-stamped the fairy tale issued by Clive Weighill and his Mountie minions. The so-called Canadian media lapped up and regurgitated all this garbage and castigated the deceased Miles Sanderson as a heinous mass murderer. even though that had never been proven in a court of law. As with the Indian residential schools genocide, none of the reporters bothered to ask any obvious questions, like why Trudeau, Simon and Welby and the Rio Tinto business associates doled out millions of bucks to the local chiefs, or why a media blackout was then imposed on everything right after Clive Weekill's farcical pronouncement and jury stacking. Well, things went quiet after that for about a year as the corporate wheels turned behind the expensive government smokescreen. To distance itself from its odious actions, Rio Tinto Company handed over its James Smith project to one of its affiliates, a company called Star Diamond, which is closely linked with the Chinese and their investors. Star Diamond then announced it would commence mining this month by March 2024 at the James Smith Cree site, calling it, quote, the world's largest undeveloped diamond mine. No wonder people had to die, huh? And so right on cue, early in January 2024, the feds and the RCMP began stage-managed public hearings into the James Smith massacre to make it seem that everything was all above board and peachy clean. Just like they did with equal duplicity in their infamous Truth and Reconciliation Commission that exonerated and decriminalized the church-led genocide of over 60,000 indigenous children. And finally, during that same month of January 2024, the coroner and killer cop Clive Weekill announced his official retirement. Out of sight, out of mind. But truth finds a way to seep through the cracks of even the most thorough criminal conspiracy, even in Canada. During 2023, evidence surfaced that King Charles himself was implicated in the James Smith Cree murders, a revelation that's been one of the factors that sparked his likely abdication behind an official cover story that he's sick with cancer. Well, he's a sick man, all right, but not because of cancer. Charles Mountbatten Windsor likes to order the killing of Canadian Indians, especially those who threaten his Rio Tinto business interests and the image of his family. Just ask Major Johnny Thompson, Charles's top security advisor, at least he was until recently when he started spilling the beans about his boss to his colleagues. Last fall, one of them gave his testimony to a citizens' tribunal in Vancouver, the West Coast Common Law Court of Justice. The court was convened on September 20th, 2023, to investigate the murder of Native activists in our movement, the movement to expose and prosecute Canada's homegrown genocide. Well, one of the activists killed was my friend William Coombs, and he was killed in St. Paul's Hospital on February 26, 2011, right after he went public with his eyewitness account of Queen Elizabeth and Philip abducting forever 10 children from the Kamloops death camp run by the Catholic Church back in October 1994. And of course, turns out Charles was responsible for the kill order against William as well, as was proven, uncontested, in the common law court. According to the affidavit of Major Thompson's colleague who shared his remarks, a veteran member of the British Monarchy Security Force said, quote, in late December of 2010, I participated in a special operations meeting in Buckinghamshire. This meeting was called by Major Johnny Thompson, the King's chief security advisor, at the time Prince Charles's security advisor. Major Thompson told us he was appearing on behalf of Prince Charles, who had ordered him to arrange the elimination of a foreign assassin threatening the royal family. I was surprised when the target was a Canadian Red Indian, since normally the RCMP have jurisdiction over such operations. When I raised this with Major Thompson, he said, the Mounties will handle this one on the ground, we're just setting the wheels in motion. This is a royal directive. Well, I learned later that in early February 2011, Canada's RCMP Commissioner, Mr. Elliott, dispatched operatives to Vancouver to deal with the target in accordance with Prince Charles's order. I also learned later that the Indian they eliminated was a Mr. William Coombs, who as a homeless man seemed to be an unlikely terrorist. The whole affair troubled Major Thompson, who began to confide to us other disturbing actions by Prince Charles. Later, when we read Mr. Coombs' statement about his witnessing of the Queen's abduction of those children, some of us began to question our allegiances, unquote. Well, after this revelation was made public in the court's November 20th verdict that found Charles and others guilty of crimes against humanity, another source in England came forward with new evidence. It indicated that Charles had arranged the James Smith Cree killings in September 2022 to safeguard the Rio Tinto Star Diamond operation in which he had personal investments. Well, not coincidentally, the Cree killings took place just 4 days before Queen Elizabeth died, and Charles assumed the throne, inheriting Elizabeth's sizable personal fortune in Rio Tinto. Clearly, Charles wanted to safeguard his investment and all that money, and he did so with the help of the Church of England in the person of its top cleric, Archbishop of Canterbury Justin Welby, who quickly appeared at the scene of the crime in James Smith Cree Reservation. Now, of course, that's the same Justin Welby who was convicted by a common law court in 2014 for having arranged the destruction of documents and children's graves at his church's deadly Mohawk Indian Residential School in Brantford, Ontario. In a repeat performance, Archbishop Welby disposed of the remains of the murdered Cree Indians in Saskatchewan by having them buried in the local Anglican cemetery, safe and tucked away in case any honest forensic examiners started poking around. Apparently, Justin Welby was also the bagman of the $43 million payoff to the James Smith Cree chiefs. The James Smith Cree massacre is yet another Canadian tragedy. Tragedy become farce. When criminality is official and enthroned at the highest levels of society, it makes no effort to conceal itself. Even though this latest abomination in Saskatchewan is nothing new here in the Great White North, its actors have exhibited a desperation and clumsiness that reveals a deeper crisis. Royal rats are deserting the floundering ship called the British Crown as more insiders are breaking ranks and revealing new damning evidence against Charles and his family. As much as the other claimants to the imaginary British throne are exploiting Charles's woes for their own advantage, all the king's horses will not put them together again now that a majority of Canadians polled want an end to this criminal conspiracy called the British monarch. Many of these patriots are gathering this summer at a constitutional convention in Canada to lay the basis for a sovereign republic in this country, free of our legacy of genocide, tyranny, and corruption. As in early 2013, when one of our common law courts toppled a papal monarch called Pope Benedict and exposed more of the crimes of the Vatican, the deaths of the innocent are adding fuel to a growing fire. Let us fan those flames and finally put an end to the bloody triangle called big money, church, and state in Canada and beyond. This is Kevin Annett, Eagle Strong Voice for the Republic of Canada and the Republic News Network, republicofcanada.org, murderbydecree.com. Stand by for more.